And good evening, everyone, and welcome to another episode of JMU Sound Off. I am Jonathan McNamara, as always, coming to you from Richmond, Virginia. Got a great show tonight. We're going to shine the light on two incredible ladies from JMU Women's Lacrosse who are getting set for the NCAA selection show tonight at 9:30. So I highlight what's been a great season for JMU Women's Lacrosse and hopefully what's going to be a long run in the NCAA tournament. We're also going to talk to JMU golfer Kendall Turner, who will be starting her journey in the NCAA Women's Golf Tournament tomorrow down in Winston-Salem. Great discussion on women's golf at JMU. Another opportunity to highlight another Duke who is part of the Everything School mantra, making a run in the NCAA tournament. And then we're going to talk to one of the newest Dukes on the JMU football team, Ayo Adeyi, transferring from North Texas. We're going to shine the light on him, learn a little bit more about what brought him to JMU, and talk about what kind of spring it has been for JMU football as we look forward to the start of the 2024 season. But before that, we want to thank our sponsors, as always, the Montpelier Collective. Lots of discussion around the collective this week and the important role that it plays in supporting student athletes on campus at JMU. We're going to talk about that later in the episode. But to learn more about the collective, MontpelierCollective.com. We're also going to thank our friends from Skyline Financial Partners, Where's Woody, and Talent Corps. We appreciate our sponsors all season long, bringing our episodes to you each and every Sunday. And with that, we're going to bring on our other two co-hosts for the night. Taylor Atkins, Steve Brown, Michael Evangelista has the night off. Gentlemen, thanks for spending some of your Sunday with us. Taylor, welcome back from San Antonio. How was the trip?
It was great. We left San Antonio in the midst of COVID, so we never got kind of the farewell to 8 years of our life down there. So this was kind of our farewell party 4 years later.
And Steve, I know it's been a busy week for you, but lots going on in the JMU athletics landscape. And what's on your mind before we get to our guests?
I'm just excited tonight. We've got some of the, I'm ecstatic, to be honest with you. The lacrosse ladies are going to be on. I've got golf that I can chat about and nerd out about, but probably I'm the only one between me and Kendall that probably love all that, but I'm going to have some fun. And then we've got some football. So it couldn't be a better night than to have all these three sports combining into one.
Awesome. Well, with that, we're going to get right to our guests because our first two guests have a show to attend in a little while to find out where they're going to be heading in the NCAA tournament. We want to bring on Isabella Peterson, second time on the show, also a Where's Woody athlete. She is the most goals scored and points in JMU history, as well as Katelyn Morgan, the JMU valedictorian, fifth all-time in assists at JMU. Had a big weekend this weekend. And ladies, we wanted to have you on, as we mentioned in the intro, because it's been just a great year for JMU Lacrosse. Really garnered some national attention, especially at the beginning of the season, but has really maintained some high level of play throughout the year against a really tough schedule that you play every year for JMU Lacrosse. Going into tonight's selection show, obviously you finished as the runner-ups in the AAC. Just wanted both of you to kind of give us a little insight of where your mindset is going into tonight's selection show and the NCAA tournament, because it is an opportunity for you to get back to the top of the lacrosse world and make some noise with a fresh start, clean slate, hopefully as we enter into the tournament.
Yeah, I can start off. Really excited for the selection show. We think it starts at 9, but someone needs to double check that. We got to be there.
We'll double check it. We'll post it in the chat.
Okay. Yeah, but we're just really excited to see where we end up. We have some bracketology came out and they have us at Maryland, but who knows? We may end up in Virginia or maybe against like Penn. But I think our mentality just going into it is we're ready for whoever we have to play, just taking it one game at a time. And we're just really excited to get into the tournament.
Yeah, I really like what you said about the clean slate. We kind of look at the season as like regular season, and then the second season being the conference tournament, and then a third season with the NCAA tournament. And I feel like it's a really good opportunity to kind of regroup. And we have a lot of feedback from the conference and from all of our previous games this season that we can work to build on and focus on kind of the areas that we need to improve. But it's always exciting to wait for your team's name to be put up on the screen and see where you're going to go. And we're excited for some good competition.
Did the weather delay yesterday mess you guys up at all?
I don't think so. It was definitely like a little bit weird because how they set it up was we went in Vanderbilt's like indoor facility and they put like a screen down on the turf field. So Florida was on one side, we were on the other. So it was definitely like a weird setup for about 2 hours. But I think like that didn't really change our mentality or have an effect on our play. I know like the outcome of the game wasn't exactly what we wanted, but I don't really think that had a major impact on going into the game.
What in a delay like that? Do they feed you again? Do they give you stuff to drink? What do you all do? Because none of us really know what happens on. It's weird to have them on the other side of a screen. You can hear them talking, I'm sure, and that's just strange. But what do you guys do? Do you? I mean, you can't say a whole lot because they can hear you, and I'm assuming you're drinking, eating. Are you just resting? What's going on?
Yeah, well, they had a bunch of snacks provided for us like throughout the week for practices and games. So whenever we were hungry, we would go grab something. But I think I don't know, we were just kind of sitting on the field and staying loose. Sometimes people would get up and throw around. Sometimes we would like play random games in groups. But it was definitely an interesting environment, kind of like running into the Florida girls going like on the way to get a water or something. Like you kind of have to be like, oh, we're about to play. But it's so weird to just be in this like shared environment and not really know when exactly we're going to get on the field. But I think overall the team did a really good job staying loose and not really letting the delay hinder us in any way.
So what do you guys, I guess you don't care where you go, I'm assuming, or where you play. I mean, you love to play at home, but I don't think you're going to get a home game, right? We're not anticipating one.
Yeah, we're definitely not getting a home game. But just based off of like where we've been in the past, I don't foresee us having to fly. We could have to, you never know. We'll definitely have to adjust to that and that'll be fine. But we'll probably be somewhere that's within driving distance. Based off of how they've placed us in the past.
I'm hoping. I mean, that's the hope because I think you're the team I wouldn't want to face. If I'm anybody else out there coming off of losing to Florida and being as pissed off as you probably are, I'm pissed off. So I'll just say I'm pissed off for you. Just from the standpoint of, well, I won't get into too much of it. I'll just say I'm aggravated and you're probably more aggravated than I am. And so, getting an aggravated JMU team that's ready for blood, it's not a good thing for whoever you're going to run into. So I think it's going to be fun, whoever you play. And then the next team, if they get to survive from their home game, I think is in trouble. So I think you come out of wherever you're going to be playing in the Sweet 16 again. So at a minimum, because I could tell how aggravated you guys were. You look great Friday night. You look good yesterday, but I mean, that Temple team's good. People don't realize how good that Temple team is. That's a very good senior laden team. And I think they ended up I think they had more draw control. They actually controlled the draw control on you guys Friday night, and you still beat the ever living hell out of them. I can't wait. I know that's not a question. I just figured I'd just say it. But just wanted to throw that out there to you guys. I know you can't brag on it like I can, but you guys are outstanding. And if people haven't gotten to see you, make a trip if you guys can to wherever they're going to be. At least watch on TV. But if you can get up there, it's fantastic to watch them in person. Extremely fast, extremely tough, extremely physical. But just a great group of women to watch. So sorry about that commercial, but I just had to say it. Let me get Taylor brought in because I know Taylor has some questions that he wants to ask you too. So we'll get Taylor in.
Well, yeah, I just think it's important for everyone listening to kind of draw some context to the season you guys have had and the season that you're going to continue to have. You haven't had a loss outside of the top 10 all year. You have one of the strongest strengths of schedule in the country. Florida ended, I believe, in the top 15 RPI. I know before the weekend, you guys were inside the top 20 RPI. So to put in perspective just how difficult your schedule is and, really, I know as a player, you're not going to agree with this, but as a fan, no bad losses. And it's just something that, Bella, when we had you on earlier this year at the beginning of the season, we kind of talked about how special of a season that you were coming off that UNC win and what it meant to just continue to add to what has just been a off the charts year for JMU athletics. So Katelyn and Bella, I'd love for you to guys hear how, as your seasons progressed, you made it to the championship. You're looking forward to the selection show tonight. Just talk about what that means in terms of just this everything school kind of mentality and just being another block in that foundation this year.
I think the season has been really good. And even though we have losses that we would probably like to get back, like you said, it's all been really good competition, and it's cool to see the teams that we lose to like continue to have really top level seasons. And I love the athletics environment here at JMU. It's really cool to be able to cheer for so many different teams and like have that camaraderie with all the student athletes. And I think we're a really good postseason team. We have a lot of experience in the postseason, and like looking back to last year, we lost in the conference championship and we made a really deep run, really good run in NCAAs, and we're definitely hungry and very motivated, and we're hoping to, I don't know, make JMU proud in the NCAAs.
Awesome. And with that last question, before we confirm, by the way, it is a 9:00 start. So you guys are right. So 9:00 selection show. Just wanted to give you both an opportunity to say a message to the fans who have really embraced this program. Both, traditional lacrosse fans who have supported you guys for years, but also, as Taylor mentioned, gaining that national attention early in the season brought a lot of new eyeballs to JMU women's lacrosse and made new fans. I know my daughter is one of them. So just to give you a chance before we let you go and get ready for the show, what would be your message to the JMU universe and who have embraced this team and are looking forward to embracing you, hopefully in the NCAA tournament, where we find out in less than an hour where you guys are headed?
Yeah, we love our fans. We love any support that we can get along the way, and we really appreciate it if you could get out to any of our playoff games if you're close. Like, that would be amazing, and it really helps fuel our fire, especially in postseason play. So
awesome. Well, thanks, guys, and again, all the best. We wanted to have you on again as a celebration of what an amazing season it's been, but also for your teammates. There's a lot of youth on this team that are going to be Dukes for years to come, that have bright futures ahead of them as well. So just in behalf of not only JMU Sound Off, but the entire JMU Nation, all the best, you guys. But also thank you for what's been an exciting season, giving us something all to cheer for this spring. And we'll be rooting you on. We'll make sure we wrap by 9 so we can see the selection show as well. But all the best to you guys.
Thank you.
Awesome. Go Dukes. And with that, we're going to transition from one team about to make noise in the NCAA tournament to another Duke who is etching her name in the next in the chapter of Dukes who are making national news this year, and that's looking at JMU women's golf and Kendall Turner. She's a senior from Chesapeake, Virginia, who is in Winston-Salem, North Carolina, getting set for her entry into the NCAA tournament. Kendall, thanks for joining us tonight, and we wanted to have you on, first of all, just to introduce the JMU Nation to a little bit of JMU golf coverage. So before we get into that, we want to give you a chance to tell our audience a little bit about your JMU story and how you got to this point. So welcome to the show. And Kendall, kind of the floor is yours. Introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm Kendall. I'm from Chesapeake, Virginia. And as you said, I'm actually a redshirt senior at JMU. I graduated last May with a mathematics degree, and I'm currently right now doing a cyber intelligence grad program. So I grew up in Chesapeake, and I was only about 3 hours away from JMU. And so growing up, I was always hearing about how amazing JMU was and how everybody loved it. And I just kind of wanted to experience that too.
Well, tell everybody, if you would, how this works tomorrow, because you're in the NCAA tournament as an individual player. Most folks that, follow sports don't follow golf as closely a lot of times, at least on the NCAA level, and don't know that there's a team event and an individual event. Can you just give everybody a little bit about the individual part of it and then who you're paired with? And I'll ask you some more questions.
So the way the individuals work is based on rankings, or if you win your conference tournament individually. And so based on my ranking, I think I was like 170th in the country. I got an automatic bid to regionals. And so that's how the individuals work. And so there's 6 individuals at each regional site. And so at my regional, there's me, 2 NC State girls, a Georgia Southern girl, a girl from University of North Florida, and a Fairfield girl.
And so so tomorrow you're paired, I think you told us in the pre-show, with the 2 NC State women and the woman from Fairfield, right?
Yes. Yep.
And then the other ones, I guess, are paired together, the Georgia Southern and okay.
Mm-hmm.
Do you play with the other ones as you're playing this week, or you're always going to be with the same 3?
So we'll be kind of like in our own leaderboard of 6, and based on that is how our pairings will be.
Okay.
And so,
So
yes, so we're always going to be the 9:50 tee time, but 3 of us will be off hole 1 and 3 of us will be off hole 10.
Okay. Where are you going off tomorrow? You 10 or 1?
Hole 10.
Okay. And just tell everybody, I mean, I'm going to nerd out about it because I love this stuff. What is the first hole? I know you've already mapped it out in your head. You're a math major, so you've already, I would imagine, gone through all the holes with all the analysis and been thinking about where you're going to hit different shots from. So what is the 10th hole at Bermuda Run?
10th hole, it's a par 5, kind of just straight down. It's downhill, then it's a good driver 3-wood, then wedge in. It's a good starting hole.
So it's a good birdie hole for Kendall Turner. That's a great hole to start on. Actually, it's better for the non-golfers out there. If you can start on a par 5, it's at least you can. If for some reason you screw up, you can scramble and get a par.
You have that second shot to get back in there.
Yep. But if you're starting on a par 3, that's a mess if you have to do that. Most courses don't start on par 3s and don't have 1 and 10 on a par 3. So I think that's a great hole. And then what is 1? I don't remember. Is 1 a par 4? I think it's a 4.
Yes, it is. Yeah, kind of
Cool.
downhill to the right a little bit.
Yep. So tell people kind of today with your practice round, how that works, so people know a little bit how a practice round works. You're not really technically playing a round of golf, but you're doing some modified type stuff. Just tell people what you did and how you scored it and what you came in with, just so people know.
So it was actually supposed to be an 8 a.m. tee times for practice round, but we had a little rain delay. So we went off at 10 a.m., which is shotgun start. And so that's everybody starts on one hole at the same time. And mostly during a practice round, it's mostly figuring out where I want to hit my tee shots, what the line off the tee is, and mostly just getting the green speed down. Those are my 2 biggest things that I focus on during a practice round. And I like to play a little game. My coach kind of brought it up to me a couple years ago, and I really enjoy it. It's called Birdie Fire. So I don't really all I care about is how many birdies I can make. And so today I think I had around 5, and so it's a really good number. I was really happy about that.
Did you birdie? Did you get to play 10 at all? Or were you on 10 at all, or no?
Yes, yeah.
Okay. And then tell folks, I'm assuming you also hit shots from bad spots. Like,
yes,
hey,
so
just tell people how that works.
Yeah, so most times around the greens, I hit a lot of different chip shots around the greens about where I could miss at. My potential misses, like bunkers, like short-sided, long. I'd hit a lot of different chip shots because I can miss the greens and I want to be prepared. And bad shots too, like if I hit into a fairway bunker off a tee shot, I'm gonna hit it out of that fairway bunker just to see what it's like out of there. I'm not just gonna pick it up and move it to the fairway.
How are the bunkers? Are they deep? Or are they pretty decent to get out of on the?
They're pretty decent. It's the wet sand, and because it's been a lot of rain, but that wet sand's nice.
Yeah, I heard that they had some decent bunker play. I played that course a year ago, and the bunkers were great. Well, I was in enough of them, so people do say I should bring my my beach chair because I'm on the beach so often.
You just like to go to the beach a lot.
I do like to go to the beach a lot. I can get in and out of the sand with a lot of practice, so it's good. Let me turn you over to Taylor. Let Taylor ask you a couple questions.
Okay.
Well, Kendall, my main question, and I asked one similar to Bella when we had her on earlier this year, but when you're at these tournaments and you have the JMU brand, because there's been so much success across the athletics program. And I remember Bella told a story about, when she was being recruited by Penn State and JMU, she's like, the Penn State brand, I looked at the rankings right now, JMU women's lacrosse is actually ranked higher than Penn State, but that Penn State brand means something. And so with all the success you've seen across the athletic program, talk about both you competing in these postseason tournaments and just also maybe from the recruitment angle, how that JMU brand is getting more visibility because of not only your success, but everyone's.
No, it's crazy. Every time we're traveling to a tournament or in an airport in the middle of nowhere, there's always somebody who's heard of JMU, went to JMU, something always coming up and telling us, "Hey, go Dukes!" It's really cool. We're a couple weeks ago, we were in middle of nowhere, Alabama, and we had somebody come up and "Hey, let's go JMU." That's really cool to me.
It is, and I was as Steve and John mentioned, we were down in San Antonio last week. We've been there for 8 years, but took my boys to SeaWorld, and twice as we're just walking through, got 2 Go Dukes. One, the second time, it actually struck up a conversation, just kind of talking about their connection, and everything. And but I do think it's important again that when you're going to this tournament again for the second consecutive year in a row. That it's just another place where JMU is in a position of success athletically, and we'll maybe talk about the recruitment angle. Do you think that helps with recruitment, where the brand is more visible to people you want to come here?
It 100% does, because like junior golfers are looking at GolfStat and checking the leaderboards, and they get to see a JMU girl there, and like it's really good for recruiting. It's putting JMU out there with golf.
Well, and you're obviously helping add to that, so thank you.
And Kendall, we'll ask you just kind of the last question, the same as we asked our friends from JMU Women's Lacrosse. Like, what would be your message to maybe the fans of JMU, but who have never maybe follow golf? I'm not somebody who's ever let's just say no one invites me to be on a foursome. We'll say that. But it's just exciting to see your passion for the sport, your energy, but also again to see JMU's logo once again in an NCAA tournament brackets. It's exciting. Again, we're always looking for more ways to root for Dukes. So what would be your message just to the fan base and maybe people who are turning their attention to JMU women's golf for the first time, and hopefully this builds and leads to more people following the team as we move into the future?
It's just like golf is really exciting. It's fun checking like GolfStat all the time, and like I know that a lot of people do, but like more people like should get into it because it's really interesting and fun. And JMU is only going to get better at golf. It's going to keep on improving, and it's going to be really good.
Kendall, one more time, if people want to follow your progress as you go throughout the week, how can they do so?
It's golfstat.com and click the live scoring tab, and it'll pop up.
Awesome. Well, Kendall, I just want to say thanks for coming on tonight. I know you've got a busy week ahead of you and a lot of prep, I'm sure. But just know we're all rooting you on, we're all cheering you on. And it's just exciting, again, to see one more JMU person etch their name in the national scene. And we'll all be hoping for a long run for you. But all the best. We know you've got a bright future ahead of you, not just in golf, but off the court and off the course as well. As you can tell how much golf I played. But all the best to you, and we'll be rooting you on, I promise.
Thank you.
Again, and with that, we're going to make a transition to our final student athlete of the night. It's been a busy football spring for JMU football, and we wanted to bring on one of the newest Dukes, somebody who I think you're going to be hearing a lot of cannon blasts going off this fall when he touches the ball. Ayo Adeyi, a transfer from North Texas. Ayo, thanks for spending some of your Sunday with us. I was on the sidelines for the JMU football spring game covering the Coach for a Day experience, and just was really impressed with your performance as well as the offense's performance in general. But before we get into that, I wanted to give you a chance to kind of introduce yourself to the JMU Nation. Give us a little bit of background into where you were in your career before coming to JMU, because I think it's an interesting story, and it's one that should have fans excited for what they're going to see this fall in Bridgeport Stadium.
Yeah, so thanks for the intro. My name is Ayo Adeyi. I'm from Dallas, Texas. Played at UNT the past 3 seasons. And so I graduated there this past December. So going to my last season, I was just really looking for somewhere specific. And so after going through the whole recruitment process, it turns out that JMU was the best place for me. And so I'm really happy to be here. Unfortunately, I only have 1 year left. So I mean, on the flip side, though, I'm very excited to spend it with JMU, though. So it's going to be a really, really great year.
Well, tell us what you enjoyed, I guess, about the JMU spring with Coach Chesney and the staff. What did you enjoy about it? And then we'll get into what you're going to do for the next couple of weeks as you're home, I think, for the next couple of weeks.
Yeah. So I just liked how spontaneous it was. People don't really understand Coach Chesney's practices. You don't go into practice knowing exactly what you're going to do that day, which is good because, during the football game, you got to learn how to adjust to different things. And so I feel like for me, sometimes practice can get kind of boring because you're just going through the motions each day. That's not the case this spring. I actually went to practice each day, excited to go, ready to go, just because it was so fresh and brand new every single day. So that kept me and everyone else, I believe, on our toes and just made it more fun.
So how's the running back room? Are you? I mean, you guys are loaded, so it's a great group. Just talk a little bit about the room, how you guys support each other, kind of how that works, so folks know.
Yeah, so the running back room is it's probably one of the deepest rooms I've ever been a part of. Very talented room. It's really good whenever you can have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 guys who can like play in a game and like have a big impact. And so I feel like that just helps the competition levels at practices, also in the games, and so I'm really excited for the running back room even after I leave.
And tell us what you're doing while you're off. I know you've got 2 or 3 weeks, I guess 3 weeks off. What are you going to be doing as you're doing that? I'm assuming you're probably still working out, I would imagine.
Yeah, so that part doesn't stop, unfortunately. So I have some brothers who also play ball. So starting tomorrow, we're actually going to start going to the field and doing our own workouts together. So that part is fun, whenever I can come back home and see my family members, especially my brothers, because we're all on the same schedule. So we only see each other during the spring break or the summers.
Where are they playing?
My older brother plays receiver at Sam Houston, and my little brother plays corner at Northwestern.
Oh, nice. And so where are you working out? Are you working out back at a high school? Or are you working out at a college?
So we went to Mansfield Legacy in Texas, so we'll be going over there to work out.
Any other friends of yours that are going, that are in town? Anybody else meeting
you
there?
We do. Yeah, we have a lot of friends. I have some friends who went to North Texas who I also went to high school with. So, just being back in home and seeing everyone, old faces, it's really good. So we all work out together, though.
Any guys from the Sun Belt going to be over there from other teams or no?
Not that I know of as of right now.
All right. Let me get Taylor. I think Taylor's probably got some questions for you.
Well, yeah, thank you for joining us again. And we mentioned before the show came on that my professional career when I was at UTSA, so I still kind of follow them. And you were a force to be reckoned with. And I remember, as many JMU fans were following the portal, following recruiting, when I saw your name announced, committed to JMU, I got really excited because I know the impact that you had not only in North Texas, but on a national level as well. Again, put some context for folks listening. Last year, 7 games, rushing over 100 yards. I know specifically 105 yards against UTSA. I made sure to pick that out so my San Antonio friends know that you took it to them. And we talked about that game. We said some things. I'll leave that for the off-air stuff. But also top 50 yards per game in the country. I think you were 42nd. You were first in the AAC, third in overall yards. So a lot of success at the FBS level for a very good conference, a very good team that was in the conference hunt every year. And now at JMU with, like Steve said, a very stacked room. So when we had Jacob Dobbs on earlier this year, we asked the question, what's something you don't like about practice? And he said, honestly, with Coach Chesney, it's when practice ends. It's that fun. Kind of talk a little bit about that. Is that kind of your feeling too? I mean, what makes a Coach Chesney practice so much fun for the players?
No, definitely. I was actually telling Coach Chesney in our exit meeting, there were so many practices this spring where it was like he called everyone up and it was like practice was over, and it would be like a 2-hour practice, which is like normal for most college practices. But like honestly, it felt like a 20-minute practice or a 30-minute practice because we put so much effort in certain periods, but there's so many other periods where it's like teaching moments, which is really good because, football games is like you're going hard and then there's like a break, and then like you're going hard, there's a break. And so it was really good. So like during the competitive moments, it's like, why not give your all because you're going to get a break. And so definitely it's very fun. And I feel like when you're having fun, time flies by. And so that's really what I believe that's what Dobbs meant by that, because I felt the exact same way, honestly. There was a lot of days it ended and it was like I felt like I barely broke a sweat almost because I was just having a lot of fun out there.
Well, and also you hit on this when you were talking with Steve earlier, but obviously when you are committing to a team, a large part of that is obviously the coaching staff and who you're going to be playing for. But I know JMU fans would love to hear kind of what your perception of JMU was prior to coming here. Did you follow last season at all? And kind of what were some of the things about both the school and the program that, made you excited to play for JMU?
Yeah. So I did know a lot about JMU at North Texas last year just because of their success the year before too. And so when I entered the portal and they first contacted me, I did do a lot of due diligence and research them, and I found that JMU is just a very successful program. They don't lose. I just found out recently too. Like I believe in the past 4 years, their home record is like almost like 70-4 or something like that, and it's like that's very impressive to only lose 4 games in the past 4 seasons. And so also just working out this past spring, just talking to one of the guys who's been here, I was like, what's the mentality here? He was like, we just win here. Like that's the culture. And like everyone in the locker room is bought into that culture. And I think that's very unique because when people come to JMU, you're not coming to just, have a great 4 years. That's part of football. You're going to be here for 4 years. But like, if you come to JMU, like you have to know that like you're coming here to win. And so I feel like that was a really big thing for me. I feel like, if you can see the UNT games last year, we were kind of up and down the past 3 years. And so for me, I did want to go to a really established winning program. And so there was nothing better out there for me than JMU.
Well, one more stat you can throw around with people is the last 21 years, JMU hasn't had a losing season. And I believe it's us, Wisconsin, and Boise State are the only 3 in that time period to not have a losing season. So I will say that my preseason order of streamers is probably going to go up a little bit now that you're here. I think we're going to need a few more in the stands. But I'm going to kick it back to John. But I just want to say personally, again, as someone who followed UTSA, I've seen what you can do on the field. And, not to belittle anyone else, but you were one of the more excited commitments I was excited about when you came to JMU. So glad to have you here tonight on the podcast, and thanks for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
And I had a few more questions because one thing I know as a fan, there's so much conversation now in this new world of college athletics about things like the portal, what it means for players. I would just take us as a fan, the college football video games coming out in a couple of months, and I know the portal is going to be in it. So take it as somebody who did make the transfer to JMU. What's that experience like? Is it, your phone's buzzing off the hook from coaches across the country? Is it direct messages on Twitter? Just a little color and takes behind the scenes of what that experience is like. And as Taylor said, what ultimately was the thing that convinced you Harrisonburg was the right destination?
Yeah, I mean, you kind of hit it on the nail right there. It's all of that. For me, it was pretty cool, being someone out of high school, not heavily recruited. And so entering the portal at this point, within the first 5 minutes, I think my phone gained like almost 300-400 followers within 5 minutes. My phone was buzzing left and right, phone calls left and right. And it was cool for the first week or two. And then it started getting a little nerve wracking because it's like, all right, now this is cool and all, but this is like my future. Like, where am I really going to go? And so I feel like I just want people to understand, like, it's very easy to get caught up in the portal. For me, I feel like I didn't really want to go somewhere and not play. So that was like the big thing like on my mind. Being a senior, I only have 1 year left, so I don't really have time to go somewhere and sit down for a year. And so I took that into consideration. And then seeing with the 96% of JMU's production in the running back room had left, I feel like there was no better opportunity. And so that was really the biggest thing that led me to JMU.
And now the opportunity in front of you for fans who could not make it to the spring game. Give fans who are going to be packing Bridgeford Stadium this fall a little bit of a look at what this offense might look like. What are some of it's not just the deep running back room, some real great weapons obviously on the outside, and a quarterback who's like almost like a coach in the offensive huddle because of his experience coming from Washington. Just give fans a little bit of insight into what this offense might look like this fall.
Yeah, the best word to describe our offense: explosive. We're going to be an offense that puts up a lot of points every single game. And we can do it with multiple ways. We can do it running the ball, passing the ball, screen plays, whatever you can think of, like trick plays, whatever it is, like we're going to do it. This offense is very tailor made around the players. And so it's not really the players fitting a system. We're building the plays around the players. And so we have a lot of weapons. It's going to be very explosive.
And on the other side of the ball, the defense you were going up against every week in practice, and also some of those competition drills that I know Coach Chesney and the staff really likes to kind of sprinkle in throughout a daily practice. What did you see from the other side of the football in terms of what they're going to be bringing? Obviously, I'm sure you're happy that you're not going to be having to face them in the fall, but just give fans a little insight into what that unit's going to be like as well.
It's a very disciplined defense, especially love to see kind of with how the running back room is so deep now and talented. We see that on the other side of the ball with the linebacker room. And that was very evident during the spring. We try to run the ball against them, and they're going to stop the run, which is very, as an offense, if you can stop the run, it's going to be kind of hard to score. And so having a defense that can do that, that makes us as an offense, or as a team and as a whole, very excited, because we're very confident in our defense. They're very sound, very disciplined, and they're going to stop a lot of teams, and which is just going to put us as the offense back on the field. And like I said, we're going to be very explosive.
And then my final question, before I give you a chance just to say anything else you might want to say to the new fans of you who you're developing tonight. The JMU universe is kind of loud on social media. We're a passionate fan base that definitely makes our opinions known, but also really rallying behind players who are considering going here. When they post those graphics saying, I'm offered by JMU. So you always see a lot of people saying, go Dukes, and posting videos and photos. What has been your introduction like to the fan base so far? And how does it compare maybe to what you were used to at North Texas, and just in terms of how people have embraced not only you, but embraced this entire program?
Yeah, so on my visit to JMU, one thing the coaches told me is that athletics is very big at JMU, and I felt that whenever I committed, I gained a whole new wave of followers, just JMU fans, and a lot of DMs, and so the love has been a lot, and I love it. I'm very excited. Just want to say thank you to for all the love and support that I've received, and I hope to make the year just as fun for the fans as it is going to be for me.
Awesome. Well, Ayo, I can tell you've gained some followers and probably some fans after this appearance tonight. Probably will over the days to come. So enjoy what I know is not a break, because you're starting working out tomorrow. But enjoy your time with friends and family for the next couple of weeks. And we're excited to see you in fall camp and to watch you as you go throughout the season in 2024. But all the best to you, and go Dukes as always.
Go Dukes. Thanks for having me.
Thanks again, man. And with that, we're going to bring on our other co-host for our final thoughts segment of the evening, gentlemen. Lots going on in the JMU landscape this week. And Taylor, before we get to some other topics, I did want to give you an opportunity to comment on the news in terms of JMU basketball. There's been a lot of news in terms of Coach Spradlin bringing in some real talent to this roster, remaking this in really short order, looking towards next season, bringing in some size to this program. And then obviously the news about the new athletic director. We haven't had a chance to hear your opinion on that hire, which has been really great to see. But go to you first for some final thoughts on any topic you want to touch on.
Yeah, there's three things I'm going to hit on. I want to hit on those two you mentioned. I first want to give some love to the JMU baseball team. They are having a sneaky good season, arguably one of the best seasons of any of our teams. And they have one of the toughest schedules in the country. I think their non-conference strength of schedule is 4th in the country. Their national strength of conference overall, I think, is 24th, if I'm saying that right. 24th overall, 4th out of conference. So their RPI is 38, and that's dropped about 10 points because of the loss to Arkansas State that they took this weekend, but they still won the series 2-1. JMU has knocked – if this was the basketball team, I kind of compare it to the way Michigan State's basketball season went, where Michigan State suffered a lot of losses, but when you looked at those losses and you looked at how tough their schedule was, it wasn't reflective of how good they were. And obviously Michigan State went to the tournament and won a game. So with baseball coming up, they're in 6th place now, but again, the Sun Belt is a P5 baseball conference, if you want to call it that. They're 5 games out of 1st, but only 3 games out of 2nd, which is Troy, who they finished the season at. So JMU baseball has an opportunity to not only do some damage in the Sun Belt tournament, but make a strong run and make a strong possibility for being an at-large, if not winning the Sun Belt tournament for the NCAA. So if anyone's not paying attention to baseball, I don't think there's a lot of people that aren't paying attention to baseball. And Brooke Boyd made a good point. Big series against Marshall this week, and I believe it's the last home series. And Tuesday of next week, I believe, May 14th, they're down at Virginia Tech. So if anyone can make it out to that game, make sure to do so. But yeah, baseball's having a great season. WarrenNolan.com is a great site that I love. I think they do a really easy job of kind of following college baseball, a lot of stats and things to break down. So check that out. But yeah, as far as the athletic director and the new basketball coach, Coach Spradlin, I'll start off. He's a Pikeville boy. My family, my dad's side is from Pikeville, Kentucky. I believe they were even out there about 20 something plus years ago when they did the honorary Hatfield-McCoy truce treaty that they signed. But yeah, there's not much I can say that Twitter and social media already hasn't about just how impressive his welcome to JMU has been. He's hit the ground running. He's put together arguably one of the top mid-major rosters out of the transfer portal and is continuing to build that. A lot of talent from some of the bigger conferences, guys that have started at major conferences. So again, there's been so much said. I don't know how much new I can add to it other than basketball is in a position to have another great run this year. And while we haven't had any of those new recruits on the podcast, I'm sure that they would be saying something similar that a lot of the other student athletes have said tonight, that JMU brand really meant something to them. And it popped out when they got that offer with the success that the entire athletic program has had, in addition to Coach Spradlin's success as one of the youngest, most successful coaches in the country. And then you walk in to the Atlantic Union Bank Center and see one of the top facilities, not just of a mid-major, but I mean, there's a lot of high major teams that don't have facilities like that. As far as our athletic director, I have not had the chance to meet him yet, but again, have seen the conversation. I've had a lot of conversations with people that have had conversations with him. He seems hungry. He seems eager. He seems to really respect the tradition and the history of JMU. Obviously, having Jeff Bourne's endorsement is good enough for me. I mean, that's one of the best green lights you could possibly have for any JMU hire. I've been really excited to see how he's really wanting to incorporate the fundraising aspect and how successful he's been at the past schools that he's been at, how quickly he's had some of that success at his last two schools. So, again, I don't know much more to add to what everyone's already said, but these are two of the most important positions along with your head football coach. And I think we've knocked it out of the park with all three of those hires this year. I think JMU's athletic season, as good as it's been this year, we are positioning ourselves for just as good, if not better, next year in those three major areas.
Awesome. Thanks, Taylor. And Steve, I want to come to you because there's been a lot of discussion this week about the important role of the Montpelier Collective. And just to lead with transparency, we are somebody from day one when we started this podcast, we reached out to the Montpelier Collective and said, hey, would you like to be a sponsor of our program? And we did so because of how passionate we were about what they're trying to do and what the goal of the collective was. You're somebody who has been very open on this program about your service on the board of the collective and have seen firsthand the impact it has had. So I want to come to you just to share your thoughts on some of the questions that have been out there about the important role that this really plays. And I know this is something you're passionate about. So kind of the floor is yours, because I know there were some things this week that I know you wanted to touch on.
Yeah, just a couple. I mean, at the end of the day, what folks need to understand is the landscape is fluid. And in college sports, you have to think about it almost like you do with your employment. And if you're working in a job that is offering you retention money to stay, that's what we're doing for some of our student athletes. And the way it works, if people give, and when you go on the collective's website, you can see you can target your gift to whichever sport you want to, or you can make a general gift, however you want to do it. It's important for the coaches in terms of recruiting. It's important for them in terms of retention, and it's important to the players. And so what we're doing is we're allowing, at the level where we're in now, if people are looking for us to compete with Ohio State and Clemson and Alabama and Auburn and Washington, we're never going to do that. That's not who we are. But what JMU does is compete at the highest level that it can in the conference that it's in. And so what we're doing with the collective is that we are offering the ability for us to be able to pay those types of retention bonuses for our players. And when we can make that happen, which we try to make happen, is if we had more money, we'd pay everybody. But to be frank, we've done very well as a collective. We could always do better, and we'd love to do better. But what it offers the coaches the ability to do is to help these young men, these young women, stay at JMU. And a lot of what we do, you're not going to know about because they're private conversations, they're private arrangements with the players. Just like when you're at work, nobody knows what you make at work unless you tell people. And at the end of the day, if you get a bonus, you're probably not broadcasting that out to people. Same thing here. It's a private type of a deal. So you'll never know, how much we're doing for these folks, but I can tell you, it makes a difference for them. And so when people, there's rumors going out there, and when people say things that are just flat out false, it disturbs me. The collective is well funded. We'd always like more money because we can pay more people. But we never make an offer to somebody that we don't have the money to pay. And so when an offer is being made and a student athlete accepts that offer and signs that contract with us, we have the money for it and we pay it. So when people say things like, I'm not even sure the collective has any money, or I'm not sure they can cover this or they can't cover that, that's just flat out false. And, I've heard that from other people. I've heard it from other schools, unfortunately, saying things like that. That's wrong. And so, just get it right. I have no problem. If people have an opinion about the collective, have your opinion. You have a First Amendment right to say it. What you don't have a right to do is say things that are false. So be careful what you say, because it influences folks. And at the end of the day, if you're not sure, ask questions. There's certain things we can talk about. There's certain things we can't. But we'll answer as many questions as we possibly can. But I can guarantee you that if we're making an offer to somebody, we absolutely have the funds to pay it. And it's an important piece for these student athletes. It's important for their families. It's important for the coaches. It's important for our university to be able to do that. And you heard Matt Rohn talk about it in his opening. When he did his opening press conference, he talked about the collective. It's an important piece for us. And so, I appreciate everything that everybody's doing. If you have questions, great. But just don't make things that are false. Don't say things that are false about it, but have an opinion. You want to have an opinion about it, great. But don't make false statements about things that you may or may not know about. And you probably don't. So don't opine or speculate about things that you don't know anything about.
All right. Well, thanks, Stephen. And my thoughts is this, and I've been really open on X or Twitter or whatever we're calling it about, my willingness to serve as a volunteer in support of the collective, both in terms of using this platform to amplify the voice of the collective, but also to donate my personal time into supporting their efforts to get the message out to the JMU community. And that's kind of where I want to start, is to say, first of all, thank you to the board of the Montpelier Collective, who once again are all volunteers. And that's the key. If you have seen anything that's come out from JMU in terms of the collective, it has come from somebody who is a passionate JMU supporter, who has donated their time, who has likely donated their treasure, and their passion to support and amplify this important work that we're doing. I also want to say that skepticism is good. I think people who have questions and want to learn more about the collective should feel that they are empowered to do so. And that's where I want to start, was encouraging each and every person who has questions. If you're somebody who can make it out to a Duke Club Spring Tour event, that's going to be the perfect time for you to ask those questions to Coach Chesney, Coach Spratlin, our new athletic director, as well as Cliff Wood, who I have had the pleasure of knowing and working with for many, many years, both through JMU, but also professionally. And I can tell you there's no more passionate advocate for JMU athletics, somebody who is the highest in terms of character and his passion for getting this right. And he is going to be at these Spring Tours events, and this is going to be the perfect opportunity for fans who have questions to reach out and get answers to those, so you feel confident about the direction of this collective and the important role that it's playing. I know Cliff is always somebody who's very open to emails and communications to not only him, but as well as the board. So if there are people out there who have those questions, please reach out and ask them, because my passion for this subject and passion for supporting the collective came because of a couple of things. It started last spring in conversations with Kurt Signetti and Mark Byington. And both of them were about as passionate as they can possibly be in saying, this is the number one issue that will determine success for our programs, is having a stable and well-funded collective. And they said, without it, simply put, we're not going to be able to compete on the national landscape, and we're not going to be able to compete at the top of the Sun Belt. So I say, be skeptical for voices like us. People will say, well, they're a sponsor of the podcast. Of course you're going to say it. Well, fine. Don't take my word for it. Take their word for it. And that has continued, as you mentioned. Matt Rowan, in his introductory press conference for JMU, comes flat out and not only calls out the board members of the collective, but calls out JMU fans to invest in this mission. Bob Chesney and the coaching staff for JMU football put a ton of energy and time into getting the Coach for a Day experience right, not only because they wanted those winners to have a great experience, because they believe in the collective. That's why they've been so open about recording videos and amplifying the voice of the collective, because they understand it's that investment in that collective that's going to arm them with the resources they need to be competitive. And finally, the same with Coach Spradlin. We had a Montpelier Collective event in Harrisonburg where he was very passionate about why it was so important for fans to support it. So again, listen to those voices in the JMU universe that are saying it. And then my final point is this. I know we're all upset about players who have left to go to other programs. First of all, on this program, we're going to wish all those players well. We hope they have success wherever they go. This is not about the student athletes that are, again, just trying to do what's best for their career. But this is not the time to be defeated. This is not a time to be demoralized. As I said on Twitter, JMU football recruited, JMU basketball, all of our programs recruited long before the previous coaching staff was here. As you saw from Ayo Adeyi and others who have made the trip to Harrisonburg now as transfers, we're continuing to recruit now. And look out for when Bob Chesney and this recruiting staff gets another year under their belt and gets a chance to bring in their players to this roster, because the future of this program is bright, and arming them with the resources necessary to continue to do that great work. And it's not just the collective, it's also the Duke Club. And I'll tell you, that's the first thing that Cliff Wood or anybody with the collective will say is make sure your first gift is to the Duke Club, because we also want to make sure that they have the resources they need. But there is a way that you can make an impact. And I've heard multiple people on multiple coaching staff say there's never been a time where fans can have more of an impact on the success that their favorite teams are going to have on the field. This is not just a JMU issue. This is an issue for schools across the country. It's an evolving process, you said, Steve, and we're trying to get it right. But I'm just proud to know that there are some great people behind this collective, and they're going to work to show more examples of what it's doing right. And that includes community service. And that's my final point. As somebody who works for a nonprofit organization that partners with the collective, I've seen firsthand what these student athletes have been able to do, promoting causes like blood donation, disaster preparedness. We've had JMU football, basketball, and women's basketball players out at the Boys and Girls Club and doing other charity work in the community. That's another thing that the Montpelier Collective is bringing to the JMU athletics community, is building bridges in the Harrisonburg community, building bridges across the state. That's going to not only enhance those relationships they have in the community, but it's going to build bridges and also make a lasting impact on the lives of the people they're touching. And that might be some of the most important work that's happening as a result of this collective being formed. And again, proud of this collective for making that a priority as they formed this, was to make sure these student athletes were giving back. And with that, Taylor, I didn't know if you had anything you wanted to say, because I know you didn't get a chance to touch on this, but a lot of discussion, important discussion, because this is a topic that isn't going away and something we're all going to have to continue to address as we go into the future.
Well, the only thing I'll say is that there seems to be kind of this blurring of these two streams of thought, ways of thought. Is that, some people seem to confuse that, we recognize there is this G5 and P5, you can call them sub areas or sub tiers of FBS football. And a lot of that has to do with budget and support and things of that nature. But then it kind of blurs into this whole, we've always just been the minor league, or we're going to become the minor league of these bigger programs. So we just kind of got to lean into it, embrace it, and accept it. And to that, I would say, again, our first 2 years in FBS, transition years, which we haven't finished even transitioning until we start next season, we were top 25 both years. I would say in the state of Virginia, which is known very well for its both high school and college football, we arguably were the best team in the state, and that's a state with 2 ACC programs. So, I think the goal of JMU remains the same, regardless of legislation, regardless of what the NCAA does, that, we are looking to compete among the top teams in the country, whatever tier that is and whatever it is, but it's not to, this is not kind of thrown in the towel and just to kind of communicate this vision, this message that, we're never going to be that. Because not only, I know UVA had a bad year last year, and they've had lots of years, if we're honest, in recent history. But that's still an ACC program with a lot more financial resources than JMU has, and we've still proven that we can go on the field and not only stand toe to toe but beat them. I feel like the last couple of years, on paper, we would have been better than Virginia Tech. So that's the only thing I don't want to get lost in this argument is it's not that JMU fans are denying the fact that there is not some sort of tier between your Alabamas, Ohio States, and Penn States and where JMU and App State and schools of that nature are. But we plan to be able to stand on the same field with those teams, to go toe-to-toe with those teams, and can put ourselves in a position to win against those teams. So that's really the only thing I have to kind of add to this conversation.
Awesome. Steve, I know you had one last thought.
Yeah, the other thing you can do if you don't want to believe us, which is fine, talk to your friends. They go to other schools. Talk to the people that go to ODU. Talk to folks that go to Virginia Tech. Talk with them about how important their collectives are. We do. We're in talks constantly with a number of folks out there that are our competitors, quote unquote. We talk to the folks at Virginia and their collective, the guys at Virginia Tech we talk with. I'm close with those guys, the folks at ODU. From that standpoint, we're all in the same boat. And if you talk with them, they will tell you how important it is at all those schools. And I'm not saying, again, that we have the cash that Virginia Tech and that Virginia have. We do not. But you can talk to them about what the importance is of that collective and how it helps the student athlete stay ingrained at that university. It's an important piece. That's why Virginia Tech actually has two collectives. They've got one that's a nonprofit, one that's not. They do a really nice job helping student athletes get NIL deals. We were able to help, Bella get hooked up with Where's Woody to get her deal with them and a clothing deal. We like to help our student athletes do that. Again, the landscape, it's new now because Virginia's statute that was passed, it allows you to do a lot now that we couldn't do before. So it's going to allow the student athletes that are entrepreneurial to really be able to make a difference for themselves. We'll assist that as much as we can. Now, people are going to say, well, how come you're not telling us about those deals? Well, because they're between the student athlete and whoever else they're going to get a deal with. It's not for us to broadcast. Now, if somebody wants to come out, and you see it on television all the time with the UVA basketball players, I think one of them did something for the Good Feet store. Somebody does. If they do a commercial like that, you're obviously going to know. That's not for us to broadcast. And I know people are like, well, you need to tell us. No, we don't. We're not going to. And I think we were talking, Jonathan and I were talking today, and, it's almost like, the Impossible Mission Force. When you watch Mission Impossible, you don't know what's going on, but you're never going to know that they were able to fix something that you didn't know was going on. And they never take credit for it. That's kind of, in a way, what we're doing. It's not for us to broadcast what we're doing to help. And we're doing it for the student athlete. But if he or she decides to do a contract with somebody out there that's on a television show, you'll see it. That's up to them. So, I know that can be somewhat frustrating to some folks. It's like, well, I don't know what you're using the money for. Some of it's got to be trust. And we've had trust for years amongst ourselves at JMU. Trust us on this. We are doing it the right way. The coaches will tell you we're doing it the right way. And talk to your friends out there that have collectives. They'll tell you that their collectives are doing it the right way. So there's a lot of ways for you to vet what's going on. And just support it if you would. If you don't want to support it, that's okay too. We'll get other people to support it, but it's an important piece for us as we go forward.
Yeah, and again with that, it's just there are going to be opportunities in the weeks to come where you're going to be hearing from more people at JMU in positions of power. Once again, athletic department leadership as well as coaches, who I think are going to speak candidly to the impact that this collective is having, but also we're going to speak candidly to what happens if the collective is not there, and that's really where I come from. Is to your point about we have an opportunity to either get demoralized by what's happened and throw in the towel, or we have a chance to double down and redouble our efforts to all promote how we can all have an impact, whether that's with a financial contribution, whether it's with your volunteer time supporting the collective, or if it's simply just amplifying a message that comes out for them. Looking for ways that you can, as a small business or a company, to support a student athlete on campus. As you mentioned, Where's Woody? We had a chance to work with Julio IML to promote his new book. There's lots of different ways that you can find a student athlete on campus who's now leveraging this new world to have a voice, to amplify their own personal brands. Isabella Peter has her deal now with NIL, and she's got some great clothing at Where's Woody. So lots of different ways that you as a fan can get involved and show your support. And I hope whatever that support is, whether that's, again, like you said, supporting the collective or supporting the Duke Club or just supporting these individual athletes. Again, a really exciting time, a confusing time, and a time that's changing. But there are some real positives to this, and I'm glad that collective is helping to facilitate them. And with that, I'm sure this is not the last time we'll have this discussion. But gentlemen, thank you for your night and for watching. Anybody who's going to turn off our show now, we are as well, because the selection show for JMU Women's Lacrosse starting on ESPN2, as well as the ESPN app. So let's go see where the Dukes are playing. And as always, to our sponsors, Montpelier Collective, Skyline Financial, Where's Woody, and Talent Corps, we appreciate you. And that, we'll talk to you guys in the near future. Go Dukes.